son, I love you. We love you. We're searching for your son. We believe that the Lord is going to bring you home, and we want you home.
A Colorado family is desperately searching for their son who disappeared last weekend after a night out at the bar.
From that moment forward, we knew something was up.
Investigators say 26-year-old James Montoya, who goes by the name Jay, was last seen in the early morning hours of April 2nd. His parents say his Snapchat location showed him at the Hangar Bar in Lakewood, Colorado, just outside of Denver.
The last time we heard from him was at 2:30 in the morning on April the 2nd. That was the last time we've heard from him. We understand he was with the last couple individuals, males, who Hispanic. One had a lot of tattoos, facial tattoos. The other was slender, black sweatshirt, black pants, red socks, cap. And yeah, that was the last we've heard from him.
Colorado officials have not given more information about the two men Montoya is alleged to have left the bar with. But his parents, Karina and Eddie Montoya, tell Law&Crime Network their son makes new friends easily.
He went out alone. He, like I said, very outgoing, friendly. He went there in an Uber, went to the Hangar Bar and just hung out. And yeah, he went there alone, but he left with this other gentleman, this male.
They say it's normal for Montoya to visit the bar alone and strike up conversations with new people. What's abnormal, his lack of communication afterward.
What's uncharacter is the fact that he hasn't communicated, and that part's uncharacteristic of him. He hasn't used any of his accounts, like his like debit cards. He doesn't have a vehicle he's using. He's not in communication with his girlfriend, his sister, which he's very close to, my husband and I, which very close to, his grandparents. He would always communicate. He didn't go to his job, which he's a hardworking individual. He has a 40-hour-a-week job. He goes to that every day. He loves working. He loves his job. He was scheduled to go to the Marines in a couple months. And that's totally uncharacteristic of him.
Montoya's family says he never returned home to his girlfriend on April 2nd and didn't show up for work as a carpenter the next day either. He hasn't been heard from since.
He didn't reach out. He didn't go home, so that's new. He didn't communicate with her. He wasn't answering his phone, which is, again, uncharacteristic. And so that was totally something new that from that moment forward, we knew something was up.
But Montoya's story isn't unique. In fact, multiple instances of men disappearing after a night out drinking at local watering holes have popped up across the country.
When you go to a bar by yourself and you get intoxicated, you're immediately high risk for something nefarious to happen to you.
Former homicide detective Phil Waters says a missing persons investigation can be difficult to navigate.
The worst part of this, in terms of a detective, is you don't know where they went. And until you discover a body or they surface someplace alive and discombobulated, you really don't have any clues. You just know that this person left this bar intoxicated.
Just last month, two men went missing following the same pattern. 21-year-old Navy sailor Seamus Gray was last seen on March 18th at a bar in Waukegan, Illinois, about 1 hour north of Chicago. Gray was last seen on surveillance video leaving that bar near Lake Michigan. After that, officials say Gray didn't report back to his naval station on time. According to a Facebook post by Gray's mother, quote, Seamus was assaulted outside of the establishment and was pickpocketed. He had had one drink at the bar later that night and one earlier in the night. She later posted a status reading in part, quote, my boy Seamus appears to have been in a tragic accident. At the time of this recording, Gray has not been found. Only days after Gray disappeared, on March 24th, 22-year-old Brandon Pfeiffer Davis went missing from a bar in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Investigators say Pfeiffer Davis left the bar McFadden's on the city's North Shore in search of an Uber. He planned to go home to the Greenfield neighborhood of Pittsburgh, about 20 minutes away. Since then, though, Pfeiffer Davis's family has not heard from him. Officials say his phone is off and he has not made any social media posts. Speaking to a local TV station, Pfeiffer Davis's mother said he hasn't shown up for work since he disappeared, saying, quote, "It's very unlike him. This is not in his character at all." At the time of this recording, Pfeiffer Davis has not been found. Waters says most likely the cases will end tragically.
Right, I'm afraid that what the ultimate outcome is going to be for these young men is that they're going to find their bodies somewhere, someplace. So it's not a question of finding them alive and rescuing them. It becomes a recovery.
That's just the case for a Texas man who went missing in similar circumstances in November of last year. 26-year-old Delano Burks was last seen leaving McIntyre's bar in Houston on November 13th. That night, Burks was bar hopping with some friends before they got separated. He was last seen stumbling out of the bar. On November 25th, his body was recovered from the water at the Port of Houston. For now, Waters says the other 3 men, though, are still considered missing.
At this point, they are missing persons cases. They're not even, unless they find some piece of evidence that would suggest that they're dead. I mean, these are missing persons cases.
He theorizes the men may have been the target of a robbery.
You've got people that are predators that are out there that are waiting for these opportunities. And there are these folks that go out and they find these people and then they get them alone somewhere and they rob them. These are young guys and they're from the ones I've seen. I mean, they look like they're fit. I mean, they look like they could defend themselves in a sense, but you don't know what's being a knife or a gun, whatever's getting them to adhere to whatever their bad guys are wanting them to do. So,
but could it be possible that all the cases are linked?
If you're a conspiracy theorist, you'd have to believe that there's this individual who is able to move around the country so independent just for the purpose of doing this particular thing. Let's say there's a group and this is what they're doing. And they're going to these different states as part of this group. And so they say, okay, well, I'll take Illinois. I'll take Chicago. Okay, well, I'll go to Duluth. I'll go to Denver. I'll go, and then they do it. And then they get together and they compare notes. Well, here's what I got, and here's what I did with the body, and I mean, it certainly anything is possible. And
Waters says it's more than likely that the cases are unrelated.
Looking at the dates and times to think that there is one person that is running around, getting on airplanes and flying to these different states so that they can find this one drunk guy and do something to him. That's a little far-fetched, I think. It just appears you've got the same set of circumstances in different places. But right now, I don't see anything that is connecting them as being the same source of those particular missing people.
Instead, Waters believes the modern news cycle and internet true crime sleuths may have prompted some people to connect the cases that have more differences than similarities.
It's not as though we've got a serial killer out there. It's just we have now a better way of communicating these types of events. So it would appear that this is happening all over the place at the same time, and oh my gosh, there's got to be some big conspiracy behind it. It's an odd event when you have these things that all seem to be connected, but they're connected only by the circumstances under which they're occurring.
He says criminals may also use news reports of crimes in other cities to spark ideas of their own.
You may have, you've just got some like-minded bad guys out there that see this particular crime being committed and go, hey, that's probably something that could work for me. So that's why you have in different cities, different states, the same types of events occurring.
As the investigations continue, Waters says the information about the first 24 hours after the disappearance remains critical.
If they can, in those first 24, in these particular cases, if they can at least get an idea of where this person went and where was the last place that they were seen, then you go to that last location and you start trying to find witnesses, try to develop some witnesses that may have seen this interaction between the person who is now missing and the person who may have taken them.
Meanwhile, Montoya's family is still searching for answers.
And I just ask for anyone that has any kind of knowledge, any kind of tips, whether you think they're small, please reach out. And I would say that what would you want to do? What would you want someone to do if it was your family, if it was your son? My parents are brokenhearted, family members are brokenhearted, we're brokenhearted. Please reach out, speak up, stand up, and be bold and reach out to the investigative team to be able to share any kind of information you have.
His parents delivered a solemn message for their son.
I would say, James, son, I love you. We love you. We're searching for your son. We believe that the Lord is going to bring you home, and we want you home. We love you, and we're doing everything in our power to move this investigation forward.
Son, just I know you know what to do in situations like this, and that is cry out to the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't hear you at times, but he can. Mm-hmm. So yes, we love you, son, and we'll see you one way or the other. We'll see you.
Anyone with more information about Montoya's disappearance is asked to contact the Denver Police Department. Reporting for Law&Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.